Hello and welcome to Black Crow Gaming. I'm your host Arron and you're here for another Adeptus Custodes Tactica video. And you can see I've got a guest. I've got a guest with me, someone who hasn't been seen on the Black Crow channel for what? A few months now, isn't that right, Kris?
Oh, at least 8 months, I reckon.
And
At
that's
least.
not because we didn't want him, it's because you've been doing your duty and serving the Emperor.
Indeed, yeah, you haven't done a full VT on me and kicked me off. Yeah.
No, we haven't done a full VT and kicked you off, but we're going to keep that on the DL. The DL. But anyway, you know what? It's great to have you back, mate. And I've invited you onto this Adeptus Custodes podcast, tactics video, whichever you want to call it, for basically because you haven't seen the new detachment yet, and we're going to talk about the new detachment. You've
Yeah,
you've been on the
yeah,
sales
I've
groups, haven't
not
you?
had anything. And I've been out with 40k, not properly for 8 months, but kept it low. And obviously, everyone's been dead excited about this data slate today. It's dropped. I haven't read any of it yet because I'm busy at work. Apparently, I'm not anymore. But I have seen, and we'll come on to this in a minute, a few people asking if something's been for sale.
And I think we're all going to kind of have a look and see why in a minute. But if you like our content, please do me a big favor and hit those magical YouTube buttons. Hit the like button for me. Hit that lovely subscribe button for me. And obviously ting the bell notification for whenever you see we've got a new video. It really helps us. And obviously you can see we've got two wonderful sponsors. We've got Glasshammer Gaming and we've got Terrain Forge. If you want some miniatures a bit cheaper, go over to Glasshammer Gaming. You can go into our link tree below, go straight on there. That'll tell you what the discount code is, and you can get an additional 5% off your plastic crack from Glasshammer. Very nice. Very nice. And likewise, Terrain Forge, they do bespoke terrain, which you can see on the Black Crow Gaming bat reps, which has all been sent from our friends over in Terrain Forge, and it looks amazing. Kris, you've had the pleasure of playing on that terrain as well, haven't you?
I have, and you spend a little bit of time extra on it, a little bit of paintwork, etc., and it looks even better than it does out of the box.
Yeah, it's very, very nice. And if you want to show your appreciation, you can drop us a little bit of love. You can do a super thanks for us. A super thanks is really helpful. It's the first, we've just monetized the channel, so we're now at a point where we can start developing the channel, and every little bit helps. And if you're willing to help us and support us, we'll really appreciate it as we try and just improve the content that we have out there for you folks. Kris, are you ready for this?
I am ready. I'm ready for you to break my heart, I think.
Let's go on to the next scene. So today was the data slate, folks, and we're going to be doing a more of an in-depth data slate breakdown from the whole data slate. But today we're going to talk about the Adeptus Custodes. Now, the Adeptus Custodes, they've had a bit of a turbulent time, to say the least. I mean, a year ago we got nerfed into the ground, and I think Kris, you probably remember, I was quite upset about that at the time, and
Just a little bit. I think that was just off the back of us actually playing at an event as well.
yeah, it
Maybe
was.
Leicester. I can't
Yeah, it
remember. Yeah.
was. Yeah, and then the next thing we know, the we had like 9 months worth of them trying to fix Adeptus Custodes, and they released Solar, and Solar got a little bit of a nerf today. Some of those key units went up in points. But they also dropped us a new detachment, which, let's be honest, I don't think anybody was expecting, unless you were somebody in the know. And Kris, let's talk through this new detachment. So, got it up for everybody. So, it's called...
It's so difficult sitting here not to read it as well, Aaron. I'm not going to lie.
I bet it has.
I'm looking forward to this now. We can actually get into the meat of it. Come on,
Let's
let's
get
go.
into it. So, Lions of the Emperor. So, their detachment rule is this. So, it's called Against All Odds. Each time an Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicles, makes an attack, if there are no other friendly units within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the hit roll and add 1 to the wound roll. So, initial thoughts
My,
on
my,
that?
my first question on this, quickly, the first thing that's come to my head is, what's your average movement?
6 inches.
Okay,
But
pile in,
we
consolidate.
have got all assault weapons. Our bites can move 12 inches. Our Venatari can move 10 inches.
So you were hitting hard anyway,
So
on decent ballistic skill, weapon skill.
we were quite fast. So we hit on 2s. So the +1 to hit is if your opponent's got any modifiers that say no,
Yeah.
that's now -1. We now also
I'm I'm assuming Toby's watching.
Yeah, well, he might be. And we also get now we get +1 to wounds. Now the general consensus is it might be quite difficult to get your units 6 inches apart from one another. But I think actually it's not that difficult. Maybe in the beginning, first couple turns, yes. But as the game goes on, you start losing units. That's going to come really in its strength because +1 to wound with Adeptus Custodes units who are already strength 7 with.
And it looks like. Nope.
Sorry,
I'm
go
not
on,
sure who
Kris.
dropped out there. I was going to say, I'm not sure who dropped out there, me or you.
No, it's all good.
So you were just saying, obviously, you're not sure. Like, turn one, shaking out a little bit. You're probably going to be within the 6 inches. But turn two, turn three, when you're maybe starting to make those staging moves and those maybe even just going for the yeet of the long range charge.
Yeah,
You're
exactly
getting in
that.
there.
It will be that +1 to wound will actually come into its own. So typically into infantry, Custodes are wounding on 3s.
Yeah,
And the
what's the strength of the spears? Because everyone's rocking the spears a lot more at the moment, aren't they,
7.
rather than the axe? Okay. So we're happy now. Going
But
into things that are higher toughness up to, toughness 14 is going to be your pinch point at this point, isn't it? Where you're not trying to fish for some AP and some wounds onto it.
so how do you feel about the detachment rule? So your initial thoughts on that, Kris?
Knowing how hard Custodes hit anyway, this already seems kind of not. I'm not going to say cracked. Not going to go down that far. I mean, you've got to remind yourself that Custodes are a very, elite heavy points burdened army. So what you do have on the table, there's not a lot of it. But this, it's helping those non-vehicle lists out and maybe putting more infantry on the board. So maybe going back into the more MSU, feeding some cheap chaff, and just that trading game's you're going to be able to trade up a lot better. You're maybe not going to stand. I mean, it's attacks, isn't it? It's not even just melee, so it's just attacks or even you're shooting. Like you're going to want to maximize this route every turn. So maybe taking that MSU and just feeding the grinder, getting those hits and attacks. And you got my judgment tokens because I was going to take Votan.
Well, this is the beginning. Now we get on to the enhancements. So the first enhancement is an Adeptus Custodes infantry, and this is called Superior Creation, model only. The first time the bearer is destroyed, roll a d6. At the end of the phase, on a 2+, set the bearer back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed, not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, with its full wounds remaining.
I always like this rule as a weird one for enhancements. I don't mind paying for it for the most part. You put it on your beat stick. Normally, have you got any fights first?
So we don't have
Characters?
fight. We don't have fights first.
Okay, so again, so it's not awful in that aspect. I think I just always like this. It's just a little rule for your hero character. Full wounds. Some people always come back with sort of D6 or D3 wounds or whatever, but that one doesn't make me sad. I'm quite content with that one.
This is gonna come into its own later on.
Okay.
So the Alaris Terminator has a rule where it can reduce all damage that it takes to 1 as a captain. So the shield captain can reduce Alaris Terminator can reduce all damage it takes for a phase to 1.
And then just stands back up.
And then
with this enhancement. Yeah. Okay.
So it's got 7 wounds, toughness 7.
Yeah. So he's tanking the game. He's running across the board and tanking stuff.
So
as he already was, but even more so. And then he's just getting back up again. So you're going to commit multiple resources potentially, or high resources, to get rid of him, to only have to do it again.
Yeah, and there's a stratagem we're going to talk about later in the game that makes that even better. The next one is
so Terminator Captain shopping list first of all. Happy.
Yeah, that's kind of an insta. The next one is Presidius. This one makes me happy. An Adeptus Custodes model only. The bearer has lone op and stealth.
Okay. I don't like that one.
So
and
shield captain on a bike.
A shield captain on a bike that's exactly where my brain's gone to straight away. He's fast. He's already a target, but he's now moving so much more freely. And what do they move? 12 inches probably.
12 inches.
He's on a bike. Yeah. So he's moving 12 inches, and he's cutting around that battlefield. He's got Lance still. He's already +1 to all the rolls and stuff, but now he's re-rolling anyway. I don't like that one. Thank God you can't double stack enhancements.
Yeah, thank God, because it would be cracked. So this next one is called the Fierce Conqueror, and this is for Shield Captain only. At the start of the fight phase until the end of the phase, add 2 attacks to the attack's characteristics of melee weapons equipped by the bearer for every 5 enemy units within 6 inches of the bearer, rounding down.
It's 5 models, not units.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 5 enemy models within 6 inches of the bearer, rounding down.
Yeah, I mean, he's your anti-chaff character there. I mean, obviously most units are 5 models, unless you're probably going to be teased not to shoot something now before soften it up before you go maybe fight into it.
That one's okay. That's
Yeah, it's not to me like if you told me that across the table, I say I was bringing up, whether that be my world eaters or whatever. I'm not going to be too sad about it. I'm probably going to grenade strat you or something. Or go for that precision, try drop you before it maybe comes into play. It's not got me in the feels, that one. Not like the one before.
not like the one before, but this one might do. This one's called Ad Monit Mortis. It's called for a shield captain model only. Improve the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by the bearer by 3, and improve the armor penetration and damage characteristic of those weapons by 1.
So, what's your strength anyway on a shield captain with either a spear or an axe?
So with an axe, it's strength 9. With a spear, it's strength 7. So you either
Okay.
have a strength 12, AP2, flat 4 damage axe, or, or a strength 10, AP3, flat 3 damage spear.
So reference that Land Raider that you're now plus. Well, you're hitting on 2s anyway.
Potentially
You
wounding
were
on
wounding,
4s.
you were wounding on 3s initially because it's toughness 12, Landy, and you're now strength 12 naturally.
So we wounding on
So
4s.
4's down.
4s down to
Is it not
3s.
down to 3s? Yeah, 4's down to 3s with the extra AP and with the damage. How many attacks would that be?
I believe it is 7 attacks with the spear, 6 attacks with an axe.
Okay.
And can I just remind you as well about the martial Qatar rule that we still have? So 6s are either lethal or sustained.
Yeah. Okay. So you're
That's
one bombing most Primarchs. You one bomb, yeah, most things in general in this game right now. Would you put the axe on a shield captain for this reason
I
alone?
I,
Just
gen-
so it's
I genuinely believe that because of the stratagems as well, that a shield captain with an axe on, like, as in not the Alaris version, but the just a shield captain version who can do both martial Qatars for a turn and use a free CP with an axe is the best version with that enhancement. Because you make him strength 12, AP2,
yeah.
flat damage 4. He can use both martial Qatars for a turn, and he's got the free CP strat.
So you're sending him out into the wild, and he is reference whatever I want to kill. I'm killing.
Yeah,
Basically, is what you're saying.
yeah,
Like
he's
there's nothing standing up to that. Be that a monolith or a whatever. Surely by it may well obviously the luck of the dice we're getting some sustained and lethal and stuff, but
it's
yeah.
pretty.
So
That's pretty.
you're
The
taking three
enhancements.
characters. So you're taking 3 characters straight away.
Yeah,
Four, and you're putting every single one of these on a character with purpose. I
yeah,
don't think of many detachments off the top of my head, and obviously I could be absolutely wrong here, where 3 of the enhancements are almost all it takes.
no. I think they're very good. They're very good, and the stratagems.
And together as tools, as you said, you keep talking about stratagems, and obviously I've not read them yet, so I'm not putting all the pieces together. But you have a character there that has a purpose for each of those abilities to roll into it with the support of everything else in your codex. You've got your low knock character who's now darting around the place, nipping your secondary ejectors, harassing maybe a flank, or trying to pip out a character or something. The getting back up again. He's your front 9 character. He's your beat stick going down the middle or whatever to soak up some fire, make your opponent commit some resources to then for you to counter into. And then obviously that last one, that big thing that maybe, Angron held in deep strike. I'm going to hold mine in deep strike until you appear, and then I'm coming for you.
Yeah,
I'm not scared of you.
it's pretty good. Now, let's piece it together with some stratagems. Bear in mind, a lot of Adeptus Custodes have a once per game ability. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first stratagem we're going to talk about is Gilded Champion. And when any phase just after a Adeptus Custodes model from your army has just used its ability on its datasheet that states it can only be used once per battle, target the Adeptus
I'm guessing where
Custodian
this is going
character.
already.
Your model can use that once per battle ability an additional time during the battle. You cannot use this stratagem on the same Adeptus Custodian character model more than once per battle. So we're talking Trajan with his Moment Shackle. We're talking the Martial Task. We're talking Advance and Charge. We can use that twice. We're talking the Alaris Terminator Captain that just reduced all your damage to 1 in the shooting phase. He then gets back up at the end of the phase, and then you charge him, and he reduces all your damage to 1 again.
Okay. Yeah.
And that is 1 CP, folks.
Yeah. So again, reference what I just said about that character, that shield captain that you're sending out with the improved strength, the Dominatorus, or however we're pronouncing it.
Yes.
You're saving a CP for that character twice.
Yes. And also, the Moment Shackle, obviously, with Trajan. So you've got the 2+ invulnerable save that he can do. But for 1 CP, he can then go use his Moment Shackle again in the assault phase, and he can do the 12 attacks.
All over again.
With Strength 12, AP 2, flat 3 damage.
Did you get any points increases?
No, we got only our Dreadnoughts got increases. The Wardens went up by 10 points, folks. The Blade Champions went up by 10 points, and the Custodian Guard went down by 10 points.
So the thing that really benefits from this detachment, i.e. infantry, you can now put a few more infantry in, kind of.
Yes, Shield Captain on a bike went down by 10 points.
Oh, well, how much is that stratagem? Do we know? Stratagem, sorry, the enhancement.
I think it's 25 points.
Okay, so 15 points.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
okay.
So that's the first stratagem. Right, here's the next one. Now, this is the one.
Just in case people are wondering also what's going on, obviously my eyes keep darting every now and again. So what I'm actually doing right now is I've got Glasshammer web store open on a separate tab on my tablet, and I'm looking as you're talking through this. I'm just adding some things to my shopping cart. Don't forget the Black Crow Grove in there.
So this is the next. This is probably the coolest stratagem in the entire detachment. This is something Adeptus Custodes, who played 9th, have wanted forever, and it's Unleashed the Lions. Do you remember that stratagem, Kris, at all?
So Custodes was actually the first army I learned to play competitively. Joe Cole's teaching me, etc. He decided it was a good army to start with, and if I remember rightly, I'm trying not to read it, but it meant things turned lone. So you used to take like a block of Terminators, or well, actually I used to do with the Custodian Guards with shields and sword, and then each one of them would turn individual.
Right, so that was locked to Alaris Custodians, yeah. So
it was, yeah.
So basically, what it is,
you used to take a 3-man Terminator and then split them, didn't you?
Yes.
In the command phase, and now you had 3 independents running around.
Yeah, so that's that back again. So for 1 CP, your command phase, 1 Alaris or Aquilon Custodian unit from your army that is on the battlefield. That unit is split into separate units, each containing 1 model. These new units each have a starting strength of 1.
And that was always a fantastic stratagem for doing mission play, as you said. You would keep the brick, maybe initially or whatever, and then separate. Or did you used to have to do it during deployment? I can't remember.
The big play here is you keep a brick in reserve. You could rapid ingress them because they've got deep strike. You then bring them down. You then split them. And this will help you get around fights first. This will help you because they can't just fight first into 1 unit, wipe your unit. They have to then split all your attacks. And if you're splitting attacks into Adeptus Custodes, you're just not as good.
Bad times.
You're not going to be as efficient. You can take that unit and a couple of them can go off and do actions for you. A couple of them can go off and do. And bear in mind as well, Alaris Custodians can also get back. Can have the uppy downy. So you bring them down, you split them, and then you've got potentially 6 individual units that can just up when you want them to, and you can plop them all around the board. doing actions.
Are there any UKTC missions that you see that really being helpful for? Because I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember what missions we're currently running at
So
UKTC, and I should know because South Coast is in a couple of weeks.
So I think in general, it will just be able to help in mission play for when you're getting your cards. So for example, if you draw containment, you can plan it so that you're picking a couple up and you're holding them there ready for when you draw these cards. So if say for example, like containment, like recover assets, like behind enemy lines, like establish locust, all of these sort of action based where you don't want to be committing big blocks of units and maybe they've killed your sisters really early on. Having these Alaris that can just run around. Now I'm not saying you want to split a 6-man blob of Alaris because I think that might be too much. But absolutely a free man with the Alaris captain,
Mission flow and unit. Yeah,
and that Alaris captain is not going away. You're not killing him easily anytime soon, and that is where that stratagem really comes into its own. And I think that in itself is really exciting. And we're only 2 stratagems in, and they're both excellent.
very good.
The next one we're going to look at is Defiant to the Last. So this is a fight phase ability. Just after enemy unit has selected its targets, one Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that was selected as the target for one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit is destroyed, if the model has not fought that phase, roll a d6, adding 2 to the result if that model has the character keyword. On a 4+, do not remove it from play. The destroyed model can fight after the attacking unit has finished making its attacks. When doing so, it's treated as having 1 wound remaining and then is removed from play. So it's got Fight on Death Custodes, which we had in Solar, but this is better.
So Defiance to the Last, paired with the Getting Up on a 2 as well.
Yeah.
So you've charged in something fight first. Let's say Champions of Slaanesh, that box set's come out, Fulgrim's come in. He chose fight first. He kills your character. You now only need to roll a 2 up on that shield captain.
And you bring
He
back
now
at the
gets
end
to fight.
He's brought back at the end of the phase, though.
Oh, so he's not fight, is he? No, sorry, no. So
you get to fight with him.
That's what I'm talking about. Sorry. So you need 2 CP for obviously. Oh, not 2
CP.
CP. One CP.
Captain does a free CP as well.
So he's gonna. So you've charged him in because he's now. You know he's probably coming back unless you roll that cursed 1. You're spending the CP, but you're not spending the CP, as you just told me, to fight someone that maybe charged into you or whatever you've charged into with fight first. You've picked a chunk of damage off them, and then you're rolling another dice to hope on another 2 up. He's coming back to life.
On 4 wounds.
On 4 wounds. To go all over again.
Yeah.
And do Defiant to the Last again next turn.
Yeah. If he's not fought, okay. Yeah. That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's very good, yeah.
The next one I also like, and it's one that is in a pretty much 3 or 4 of the Adeptus Custodes detachments already, and that is in your movement phase. Just after Adeptus Custodes unit has fallen back until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in the turn in which it fell back. 1 CP. Fall back, shoot, and charge. Good. Strong.
Yeah, it's good. It's always good. A lot of detachments have this as a stratagem, so not going to get too upset. But paired that into when you start stacking these abilities and these rules, that's when that obviously starts getting a bit more cheeky.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's strong. This 4 stratagems so far, all good. Now, normally there is some redundancy in detachments where there's the odd stratagem that actually you're just never going to use.
Absolutely stands out. Yeah.
Do you feel like that with this at the minute?
I feel like the one that you're least likely to worry about right now is maneuver and fire, because with everything else you've probably killed what you've already charged.
Yeah.
But as you said, my Dominautus shield captain that's charged into that heavy vehicle, that high toughness thing with loads of wounds, and then I want to do it all again, but I want to fall it back so other stuff can shoot and get the +1 to hit, +1 to wound. And then he's going to charge back in and finish it off. You're not surviving that for a second round.
No.
You're not going to survive being punched, being shot, then being punched again.
It's very good. Next, we're going to go on to Peerless Warrior. Now, this is amazing as well. This is a fight phase only. 1 Adeptus Custodes unit from your army. The unit from your army that is not selected to fight this phase until the end of the phase. Melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have the precision ability.
So that I see that as incredible.
That is incredible.
You're multi-charging things, maybe splitting your attacks, whatever, and you're taking out multiple characters before depleting probably the unit they're attached with.
Bear in
Be
mind,
that your
a
Chaos
lot of
Lords.
units out there get better if the character is attached to them. So just being able to reliably know that you're going to kill the character straight away. Because if you charge a unit of guard or wardens, you're potentially putting in 20 plus attacks plus your character, and once you've killed the character, the rest of your attacks just spill over. But if
They're not wasted attacks. You're not trying to chew for a second set of wounds, if you like. You're starting with the high priority target, the thing that you were probably charging the unit for anyway, in the hope to kill all the troops off, and now you're starting at the top priority and working your way backwards, and just left with whatever they're, as you said, whatever they're supporting. And normally, when you're putting characters into these troops, you're possessed, you're chosen, whatever. You're trying to get your buffs and you're trying to make them better, but you don't have to face the full wrath of then that character also hitting you.
And what makes this really strong is it's when your unit activates. So you don't have to telegraph this.
When you select a fight, not at the start of the fight phase, yeah.
So it's when you select a fight, and that is big. And if you want to know what I mean by telegraphing, if you say, okay, at the start of this fight phase, I'm going to use this stratagem, your opponent knows this is what's going to happen, knows what your plan is, knows what the ploy is. However, when you're doing it when you're activating, this is where the multi-charge comes really big, right? You can come in with one unit, do the precision, and the second unit can literally come and just finish off the weakened unit that won't have any of the buffs that it originally would have had. Because bear in mind, if you're only charged with one unit, the fight phase happens all at the same time. So that unit still has those buffs, even if the character's dead. But if the second unit then charges, they are then attacking that unit without any of those buffs and will make their job a lot easier.
And again, pairing that with maybe you Unleashed the Lions previously, and you've got all those new Terminators cutting around by themselves. Those free, potential lone Terminators, as you said, going for that multi-charge, and now you've got the option to put precision in there if you just absolutely want to kill a character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Strong. And then here's another one, and this is obnoxious. Swift as the Eagle. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has shot one Adeptus Custodes unit from your army that was selected as a target for one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. The unit can make a normal move of D6.
So it's vehicle keyword. So obviously we know we're back in laser infantry. Are the bikes mounted or are the bikes vehicle keyword?
Bikes are mounted.
Okay, so they're moving 12. Maybe even that lone up character that you've got. He's moving within distance to shoot whatever he wants. And then maybe you just want to get him out of dodge.
Yep.
And he's moving D6 backwards after he's done what he needed to do.
Yep. Or if you screw up your shooting allocation, someone shoots a unit, kills maybe 1-2 units, you get that, and then you can move them off of a terrain piece that would put them in cover, but now makes them an untargetable unit for everything else in the army that we might have been shooting them.
Yep. It makes that, especially guard at the moment, prevalent with the mortars, obviously to get the extra pip of AP before something else piles into it. As you said, okay, you can mortar me and use Creed to do your free, your reduction of cost, but I'm running away.
It's this detachment has no bad stratagems.
No, not a single one, and it's got it's not even bad. Fierce Conqueror. It's not even bad with the way orcs are running around at the moment. From my understanding, you're still getting your sort of blobs of orcs and your tank busters, etc. Extra attacks is extra attacks.
If you charge that into the middle of something, and bear in mind it's add 2 to the attack characteristic of melee equipped for every 5 enemies. So if you go into a unit of 20, he gets 2, 4, 6, 8 additional attacks on top.
On top of with the +1 hit, +1 to wound. Doesn't need the +1 hit because he's hitting on twos anyway.
And the martial guitars.
Let's say most infantry that are going to be blobs in 20 are going to be toughness 5 and below anyway, going into your orcs and stuff. So are we all Custodes players now? Is that what we're saying?
I feel like the internet may become custody players.
Yeah, yeah. I think I might be a Custode. So I have managed to paint an army before in a week. Build and paint.
I mean,
I get home on Saturday. I reckon I could
I
have
mean,
this
what is
army
it?
nicked up.
Toby is going to South Coast, isn't he?
Yeah.
I could just give him my army.
Oh, you know. Oh, I thought you were coming for some reason.
I'm not coming now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could absolutely just use some models to proxy, practice during the week, and then that's me rocking out with Custodes on the weekend, having not played 40k in 8 months, but the army basically playing it for me now. It's back to my early days of competitive 40k. Just a solid army with great stats, and then semi-broken rules. But all right, I don't have a million models, but every model in the army has something for the party.
So what I really think, folks, if you're watching this, what really stands out, there's some key points, key combos that really stand out, and we will go out into these into more depth. But it's just great to see someone who doesn't collect the army and just to see their natural reaction, because when you take the first part of it, you're like, oh, okay, that's all right. Then you go through the enhancements, you go, okay, yeah, that's okay, and then you start stacking the stratagems and the natural abilities that custodians have.
And that's the bit I'm missing right now is the natural abilities. As I said, I've taken my foot off the gas a little bit. I'm not fully au fait with the natural abilities, but as you keep saying, when you're double guitaring and stacking everything up, making things already more durable, that you're then throwing into the meat grinder because you've got the ability to go, cool, well that invulnerable save, I'm going to do it again. Why? Because I've got a stratagem that allows me to do it.
So I also don't think, because this excludes vehicles a lot. So Adeptus Custodes bikes, their salvo launchers got better, folks. So they're now strength 10, one shot, strength 10, AP 3, D6 damage. However, and I think it's actually D6 plus 1, sorry, apologies. However, what makes that better is that they've now all got plus 1 to wound if they're out of 6 inches of another unit. So they're wounding on 4s now against high vehicles, high toughness vehicles. You're wounding on 4s with a reroll. So it means that wound
I'm
roll
probably just looking to charge it afterwards anyway.
exactly
Because you've got plus ones. I mean, you're lancing anyway, right? With the spears,
yeah
if I
exactly.
remember that correctly. So you're going in and you're smashing.
It's pretty cool. And we talked about the shield captain being the low knot character, and the thing that I really liked about it as well. One of his abilities after he has fought in the fight phase, he can, even if he's in engagement or in not engagement, he can make a normal move of 12 inches. That low knot character.
Take some shit back out. Yeah. I know somewhere that still has Auric Champions box set for sale.
Well,
not saying that Photon army I've been working on for 6 months might get shelved for a couple of weeks, but
I think actually what I know we say that this detachment's really strong, really good, all this, that, and the other. But actually, what I think's what's really interesting about it actually feels like a custodian army to play. And one of the big weaknesses that we notice is we've got no mortal wound protection. So grenades are still going to hurt us.
Yeah.
Grenades are still going to hurt us. We're going to be reliant on our shield captains because we want those -1 CP costing. So I think the way that Space Marines have been hit now as well only improves us because now that Oaths is locked out. So the way that it works, so people could really abuse the double oath and the +1 to wound oaths at the moment. That's now changed. That doesn't really that's not going to be as problematic. I think if we're as Adeptus Custodes players, a part of the 10,000, this is something very much to be happy about and to celebrate. Because let's be honest,
I do.
Were we expecting this?
No.
No, not unless you're in the know.
All the extra detachments. I think sort of face value, it is very, very strong, and you do consider those, like, as we said, I am sat here thinking that looks really good, like trying to think it. But I feel, again, let's just use South Coast as the example. We're sort of in a week and a half now, where the list of missions this Sunday is for some people. Maybe if they're not, I feel like you could get punished. A low skill player playing this army could still probably be very punished by quite a few of the other armies. You only need to make maybe some of the wrong movements or some of the wrong interactions, or maybe even use your CP incorrectly. and you're not going to have access to everything maybe straight away. There's still going to be ways, as you said, you can still do the mortal wound. You can still, try and slow them and sort of get around and force your opponent to play the once a game the once a game ability to then use the stratagem. You can kind of almost tease it a little bit here and there, because you're always going to outnumber custodes for the most part as well. They're a high cost army, high elite army, but it's going to be interesting to see how, if you take this away from raw strength and raw ability, maybe, to how well can you abuse these stratagems and those enhancements to play the mission, knowing you could, for all intents and purposes, be tabled by, let's say, turn 4, turn 5 as the Custodes player. Let's just say you've absolutely whiffed it. But have you managed, through a bit of sheer durability and attrition, managed to hold out so your opponent can't score against you?
So
And
you've got a good point. It is about how well you can hold out. And Custodes, I still think, even though Wardens have gone up in price, in points, so for 4 Wardens, it's 210 points. Okay, their abilities haven't changed. They still are, if you're shooting above their toughness, you're -1 to wound. They're still got a once per battle 4-up feel no pain. That hasn't changed. That still exists. That's still really strong. So you've still got those units that can go sit on objectives for you and stay there. What's become really good is that actually now the other units in Adeptus Custodes are extremely deadly. So Custodian Guard get rerolls of 1 to wound. They've got the double shooting ability. But if you put them on an objective, they reroll all wounds.
I think that's my issue when I'm looking at it, is I feel melee and custodes is always expected to be really good. They are the golden boys. You don't really want to go into a fist fight with custodes. You kind of need to attrit them as they're coming towards you, and try pip off those couple of models and try keep them away from you, keep them screened out. You don't want to be charged by custodes. Never do you want to be charged. But now it's the issue of, especially with that +1 to hit, +1 to wound factor. I feel that custodian shooting in general across the infantry line, and obviously now as you mentioned, the bikes, that's just become that even bit more deadly. That although you would maybe expose some of those high toughness vehicles previously, knowing I've maybe through math hammer, I might lose a few wounds and whatnot, but it's going to survive. And then that land fortress, that crusader, whatever, is going to be able to hit back quite hard and maybe pick off a few models in return. That's now more of a consideration or less of an option for your opponent to consider because of the +1 to wound if you're outside of the 6 inches. So that shooting, that double shooting, as you said, you're just fishing for hits and fishing for wounds. That it's almost a double threat aspect again. There was times when I remember back when I was playing Knight with Guard that sometimes I just wouldn't waste time shooting because I knew I'm going to make that charge and I'm going to pick everything up in that unit. I don't need to worry myself with rolling some dice and losing time on the clock. I can speed this up. Whereas now you almost don't want to miss your shooting phase either with the custodes.
No, the Custode shooting has now become quite strong because of infantry. Because bear in mind, Laris have got 2 shooting attacks. They've got obviously their spear, which is strength 4, AP -1, 2 damage. They've then got their ballistas, which is strength 4, AP 1, 1 damage.
Blast as well.
Blast, and into character units or vehicles, they re-roll all wounds.
Yeah. So and again, as you said, with that's character that includes character units before you're going in a fight. Now you are obliterating a lot of things, and as I said, I get there's not many models, but everything is still hitting you hard.
Yeah.
Very hard. And then everything has either an enhancement or a stratagem that is helping them hit that bit harder and take your tools away as the opponent. I.e., if we were doing our match off again, World Eaters and Guard, Custode, sorry, you're less worried about that Master of Executions that I had. You're less worried about Angron and all these other characters because you've got tools in the bag to get around it.
I really don't care about fights first now. If you have fights first, that's great. You can kill my unit, but there's a chance that they're going to just fight on death, and kill you in a trade.
Yeah, and as you said, and that includes that double charge. Whether I'm charging a unit and that one character, it doesn't matter how you split your attacks or what you do. I'm probably going to use. Is it Gilded Champion? Was no, that was the one that let Defiant to the last, wasn't it? Sorry. You know, you're probably going to going into a melee matchup where you know you're probably going to get charged, or looking at the new Emperor's Children stuff that's coming in. There's a lot of obviously fight first around that army and all that sort of thing. Defiant to the last is just a good solid counter.
I'm very happy with this, and you'll have to let me know if you need to borrow any models, Kris, if you make that decision. And
Well, if you make a list for me, I'll just run it at South Coast. I won't even practice. I'll just go in blind.
going blind. That's either going to go really well or really poorly.
It's worked really well for me before in the past when I've not practiced or played with an army and then literally got it the night before. So what's the worst that could happen, eh?
What is the worst that could happen? So I just want to say, everybody, thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give us a super thanks. Kris, thank you for joining me on short notice and taking time out of your day to come back on and represent Black Crow again, as you will be doing at South Coast. And well, at least
Looking forward to it. I am 100%. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, good lad. And also coming back onto the streams. Hopefully you'll be seeing more of Kris as we do more content in the future. But it's been a pleasure. I'm Arron from Black Crow.
Kris from Black Crow.
Hey, take it easy, folks.